Oh, men are great outsourcers. Are you kidding
right?
me?
I just had did you see my
Comes
thinking,
naturally. Yeah, you're processing. Whoa.
my thinking brain just went,
Babe,
"Bloop,
can I get
bloop,
a beer?
bloop,
Babe, do
bloop."
you know where the remote is? I don't know where my clean underwear is. I'm like, the same place it's been for years. Like, do you need me to help you find? They are born outsourcers. Mom! I mean, come on. So that comes naturally to men.
The best part about today is me not drinking burpee water. Because yesterday I was
No more
drinking
seltzer.
I was drinking seltzer water and I was like,
So if you get asked, you just always need flat.
just flat.
Just flat.
Flat water, please.
And tea.
On air. I'm a woman of many beverages.
Oh, I know. You had 3 here the other day.
That joke does not go over well on the plane when you're like, I'd like a champagne, I'd like a fizzy water, and I'd like a tea. And I just get an eye roll from the
They're like, bitch, I don't care if this is first class. You don't fit here.
she's like, that's a lot of requests for one person.
There's a lot of requests.
So kapum pow.
I just heard that and I was like, wow.
Pow, pow. We're in the game.
Nice.
Today we're talking about entrepreneurship.
Our favorite thing.
Favorite thing in the world. So if you decide to be an entrepreneur, welcome to Crazy Town.
Literally crazy town.
Literally Crazy Town.
Yeah. Would you like anything with the side of your crazy?
An eggplant. I think there should be, in a case of emergency, eggplant as an entrepreneur. That's how you know you're like totally peaked. You're like, okay, I'm good. That's enough problems for one day.
You just, especially if you have a partner, a business partner.
Oh,
Especially
and
if
you
your husband,
work.
and you can just go put it on their desk and be like, this is where I am.
This is where I am. Oh, that's actually really smart. You work with Charles.
Yeah.
24/7, 365. You did the collaboration partnership game where you became a team and you are the whatever quarterback coach, right? Like you guys are such an amazing dynamic team. What is the foundation of that success that you have built together?
The foundation. I think that's really trust. Of course, like any relationship, whether it's, a marriage, a partnership in business, you have to have trust. So, and that was a hard one for me because I had my trust shattered right before I met him. So it took him a long time and a lot of effort to show me that he was putting his, money where his mouth was, and that if he said it, it was going to happen. So we definitely had times where I was like, just stop talking. I'll gauge you by your actions. I don't care much for what you're going to say. And I think that looking back, those words were very harsh, but I was hurt. And so it meant more to me to see the proof is in the pudding.
Right. And trust is something that is earned. And I think it's missed a lot in partnerships and business connections and collaborations. It's continuous actions day by day that add up to trust.
I agree. It's all the little things.
And I know when I was coaching entrepreneurs, I would notice that there would be a co-founder that missed meetings or didn't follow up on their word or said that they're going to do something or maybe dropped the ball or maybe overshot something or maybe, like normal human things. And we have to understand that every single time that you fail on your word, it scabs off a scar of integrity. And in the end of the day, it ends up being death by 1,000 paper cuts.
That is so true. And the flip side to that is that you have to understand and be forgiving and realize that you're both human. So there has to be space for growth, understanding, forgiveness, but that those things can't also be impacting your ability to grow trust at the same time, if that makes sense. So you have to understand who the person is that you're working with. And when they do something that is totally in their personality, just because you don't like it, you can't say they're breaking trust. So for instance, here's a really good one. If Charles is late, because that's who Charles is, he's going to be late. And as you're watching this, babe, or listening, I know you're like, no, I'm not. I'm always right on time, which is also late to me. So I can't count that as breaking my trust, because that's not breaking my trust. That's who he is. So your expectations have to be correct as well. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense about the expectations, because when I ran the branding agency, we had a running joke at that point that became a part of the emails that we sent to our community. That was a clear expectation of something that we called ZST, Zlata Standard Time.
I love it.
And Zlata Standard Time was whatever Pacific Standard Time is, plus minus 15 minutes. So if the webinar would start at 9 a.m., you would expect me to be on live talking by 9:15, anywhere in that moment in time, right? And it created much more trust with my community because I realized that this is just who I am and I accepted it. And now I told you about Zlata Standard Time and I tell my team about Zlata Standard Time because it's just something that I know about myself that's very important to communicate to others so they don't feel like I'm constantly scabbing the trust.
Yeah.
Right.
And if it irks you and you can't deal with it, well, then don't work together. But if, for instance, with yours, being prompt and on time is really important for me. That's my own personal standard. But because I've already worked through this with Charles, I understand how to do it. That doesn't mean I don't jab at him a little bit every once in a while. And it will probably happen with you too. I'll be like, oh my God. But it's not a paper cut to me because I've decided this is who they are. They are very honest about it. And then I can decide, am I willing to tolerate that in my life? And because I've accepted that, now I can't let that be counted as a paper cut for me, right?
Oh, I like that. That's
That's not fair to your partner. So if you've decided you're going to accept it, then accept it. And that's the end of the story.
Is there something that is, when you notice people working together, is there something that you notice that is the worst trait between two partners or romantic partners working together? What's the thing that breaks the partnership long term?
Oh, that's such a good question. Charles and my partnership has evolved so much over the last 8 years with working together and with our different businesses and ultimately with understanding who we are as individuals. Because when we first got together, it was more so about doing whatever it took. So whatever it took, it didn't matter. That was 18 hours a day of working or, just both of us picking up the needs and filling them. And then over time, we realized that we have to delegate, we have to trust, we have to allow the business to grow. Sometimes it's not going to be perfect, but somebody else's 100%, even if that doesn't equal, our 100%, is it 98? Is it 95? That's good enough. Stop being, so perfectionist about it and accept excellence and also let your team grow because that's the only way that they can do it too. Just like we need to fail to grow, so does our team. So you have to make room for that. But I think the thing that can break you is if you won't allow the other person to grow. And as they're growing, if you try to micromanage that, well, you're growing and you're changing. So what is it that you're changing into? Bitch, I don't know.
Or the other person,
when I get there.
or the other person doing the growth and the changing, and they're the ones being questioned.
That's what I mean. Like as I'm growing and evolving and changing, please do not ask me to tell you where I'm going. I'm not quite sure. It's like, that's like being a teenager and, you start to get boobs and your mom like, okay, well, what size are you going to end up being so I can just buy you a bra? Okay. Are you going to be a D or a double D? It's like, I don't know. Like we're just going to have to go along this path together, right? And work through it as it comes. So I think understanding and allowing for that.
I love that. What I hear you say is that if the other person is choosing to be on their growth journey, then we cannot control them or the destination of where they're going.
Yeah, because they're still an individual.
And we get to connect on aligned values and aligned paths, like very much you and I.
Yeah.
Before we started this podcast, this is, I believe, a really great question to ask your co-founder, your partner in crime. I said, what's your goal for this? Where do you see this? Where do you want this to go? Because I was very clear on my vision for my next show because I've already done the podcast. And I asked Alicia, I'm like, where do you want this to go?
Yeah. Yeah.
So as I was asking you that question, what was coming up for you?
For me, I feel like I kind of took a break from social media for 8 years and just put my head down and worked on our companies. And what I realized is while that time passed, I wasn't building my personal brand. And in the world that we live in now, that's actually a huge thing. You can't just, you can just let it go, but you're going to be irrelevant. And so I've put a lot of effort into building and deciding what do I want my personal brand to be. So there's a lot of effort that's gone into that. And I think that this podcast is part of that. I don't know exactly what we just talked about, where my journey is going to end with this, but I am willing to partner with someone and put in my all and make sure that it's excellent so that we can attain the goals that we're setting. Where it ends up in the end, I don't know. And I'm flexible with that. It's like, this is a growth journey for me. So I just know that it has to be done excellently.
Build a brand, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
In this day and age, the most important thing that you can have is your brand. And now what's coming up now is also employee branding. I don't know if you saw that new trend of like employee branding. What is the skill set? Who are you? What do you bring to the company? And each LinkedIn profile ends up being an individual resume, individual profile, individual brand of what do you stand for? Where do you want to go? What skill set do you bring to the table? I started like yelling from the towers of personal branding 10 years ago. I'm like, everybody's going to become a personal brand. People are going to know what you stand for. What are you creating? What values are you putting out into the world?
Yeah, I agree. I actually know a lady who's writing a book. Well, I think she finished it. It's supposed to publish this year in October about personal brand building for high schoolers. It's so phenomenal. I can't wait to read it. I'm just like, she's on it. She's right. In high school, you need to be doing this now. We didn't know, we didn't have that in high school. MySpace was, I think that came after I was out of high school.
I had my
show our ages here. So, we didn't know what to do or where the social media thing was going, but it's not really social media anymore. It's your life representation. So very important.
Yeah, as you're building your life, you're building your social media presence. And I cannot stress enough that most people start building social media too late.
But what is really too late? It's never too late. Should we have all started at 7 years ago? Yes.
Should we have all started 7 years ago? But the moment that you start thinking about the book that you're writing is the moment to start posting about the book that you're writing. Don't write the book behind the scenes and then all of a sudden go, hey guys, I made a book. Everyone go buy it.
Yeah.
And people want to be a part of your journey.
Yeah, they want to watch and learn. It's like, oh, I've seen how there's these steps. I've heard her talk about these steps or those steps because it helps them. And even if it's not conscious, unconsciously, they're filing away, oh, there's multiple steps to this process. So if I ever want to do it, that's a person I can talk to about it.
There are people who have been following me for 7 years and like, I loved watching your journey and I loved seeing you evolve. And as you're building your social media, you're building your brand, you are letting people see the credibility and the steps that it took to be who you are now. Mm-hmm. When I started DJing, people were like, oh, you're such an amazing DJ. You just came out of nowhere. And I'm like, the very first photo on my Instagram is of the DJ decks that I bought. Look back at 2012. The first photo on the Instagram is the DJ decks that I bought because I don't know.
You've been loving it for a minute.
Because I've been loving it for a minute. I didn't just come out of nowhere and I was like, I'm a DJ now. What's up, boo?
Yeah.
It's like, it's been a long standing passion for me for a long time. And that's what I think branding allows you to do. Don't brand things that aren't authentic to you.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's on trend. Don't do it. Brand you. Be you.
It's almost like the fashion advice that we give people.
I guess isn't that funny? Yeah. It's logical that those go hand in hand because fashion is just an expression of yourself. So is your social media. So is your brand. So who is the self that you're wanting to put out there?
And what are your classics and what are your trends?
So true. That is so true.
What are your classics? What are your trends? So we started this episode with entrepreneurship and welcome to the bandwagon, right? What do you think is the greatest skill for an entrepreneur? Mm-hmm.
From my point of view, the greatest skill is problem solving because that is what you're hit with all day, every day. It's problems. So you have to be able to enjoy those problems as they come up and not take a negative outlook on them. Like, oh my God, I have another problem to solve. Although sometimes it can be overwhelming because all you feel like you do is solve problems. But if you will twist that perspective into a game, then you're winning constantly. It's like every time I solve a problem, I just won. So to me, that's the biggest skill that you can cultivate. And it is cultivated. Everybody can solve problems. We do it every day, even if we don't realize it. So it's just learning and being comfortable, expanding in the uncomfortability to, be better at that.
And if you want to make more money, solve bigger problems.
Yes, that is the key. Yep.
And I realized that in my fitness company, I was like, okay, well, in order for me to make the amount of money that I want to make, I'm going to have to sell a lot of $9 fitness programs. And you said something very similar about Labella, about your cupcake business when Charles asked you, hey, how many cupcakes is it going to take to be a millionaire? Over and over and over.
Yeah.
Not just once.
Yeah.
Anybody can become a millionaire just once.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to stay a millionaire?
But do you want to stay a millionaire? That is a lesson I learned very quickly in entrepreneurship. Like, okay, cool. You can hit 7 figures once.
Yeah.
And then you're like at the top of the hill, you're like, I made it. Oh yeah. Holy wow. And then I'm like, oh my God.
Is there another side to this hill? And do I have to climb another one?
And
yes,
I believe the most important skill for an entrepreneur is resilience.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be climbing hills peaks and valleys, baby, all day long, just like sex.
Yep.
It's just up and down, up and down. You got to take a deep breath somewhere there in between.
Yeah.
Because the problems keep coming. My an amazing coach, I would love to have him on a show, Zion. Shout out to Zion Kim. He's incredible. He always said this to me. He's like, your business is always broken. Like, don't expect everything to be all of a sudden fixed and working and smooth like butter just because you build a system. Systems help. You are the systems queen, which I would love to get into this with you. But he always said something is always broken in your business.
That's true. I would agree with that. And thank you for the systems queen. But sometimes I don't feel that way because he's right. The system, there's always a break. As long as you're growing, there will constantly be breaks. And that's something I've had to train employees that don't feel bad about it. That there's like, oh, this is wrong again, or this has to be this how-to has to be updated again. I'm like, yeah, because we got better. We don't want to stay the same. So just like you personally don't want to stay the same, your SOPs can't stay the same either then. As long as you're growing, you're having to document and update.
What does an SOP stand for?
Standard operating procedures.
Standard operating procedure.
Needs to be like standard operating fuck ups.
Standard operating fuck ups.
Yeah.
The best book I've ever read on that has been E-Myth. Have you read E-Myth?
I feel like I either have read it or have it in my closet.
Have it in my closet.
Yeah, I have so many books. Oh my God.
This is an amazing book for you if you're starting your entrepreneurial journey and you need to understand the difference between working on your business and in your business.
I feel like I have read it, but yeah.
I think you could write it. I think you could write a female version of the E-Myth.
Yeah.
Because you are just absolutely crush it with other SOPs and standard operating procedures and project management. And it doesn't matter how good of a visionary you are, how good your idea is. If you don't have a really great operations brain behind your business, it's not going to be able to scale and grow, because the more people are coming into the business, the more people need those standard operating procedures.
Yeah, because they can't read your mind. So I think a lot of times entrepreneurs think this is all about me. It's all about me. I have to do it all. I have to be all. That's not true. You need really good right-hand people. You know, maybe a right, a left, and a right foot, and a left foot. You need all of them, but you also need to have those SOPs so that they can understand where you're going. Where is the ultimate end goal for this? And obviously that's going to change and adjust, but at least they have something to start off with so that they can understand and try to get on the same page with you.
And a lot of entrepreneurs, especially visionaries, like Charles is a good example. And I tend to be more of a visionary type. That's another book called Traction. There's a visionary and an integrator if you want to check it out. Great book as well. We're okay with a huge degree of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And there are people, especially who are really good at doing their job, that need a level of safety and an understanding of how do things work around here.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's always intriguing for me because I would say that I have visionary skills. I would not classify myself as a visionary. She's a visionary now. No one ever says that.
I love that you said this, visionary skills. I would say that I also have operations skills now.
Yeah. You've had to learn to implement that and have that. But you are, from my point of view, a visionary. And that's why you and I meld together so well, because we both understand what the other person does, but that's not our 8, 9, or 10. So we're able to flip over the things that are, maybe a 1, 2, or 3 for us and give it to the other person because you excel at that. So that's what, to me, makes a really good partnership, if you can find someone that your strengths are their weaknesses and vice versa. But yeah, so you have to hone all the skills, I think, as an entrepreneur, but you have to then, when you are at the point where you can start delegating, do that delegation. Because just because you honed a skill does not mean that you're an 8, 9, or 10 at it. It means probably that you're able to get you by, right? Not able to do it amazingly.
Right. And then you get an opportunity to stay in your lane as business partners, as an entrepreneurs. And then you can take radical responsibility and say, this is not in my wheelhouse, but I know enough to be dangerous.
Well, I know enough also to manage you.
Exactly.
Because there hasn't been an employee. I'm not a CPA, but I can manage them. I'm like, I can see what's going on here, enough to plug and play and see that it's not right. So back to workplace, like we need an edit here. So enough to be dangerous. That's a really important part, I think, of being an entrepreneur. And it's not all about entrepreneurship. I feel like entrepreneurship is glorified these days. It's like, the flashy cars, everybody's a millionaire overnight, and the houses and the trips it is wonderful to be an entrepreneur, but it takes all kinds. And I feel like a lot of people forget that there are even multiple types of entrepreneurship, entrepreneur, solopreneur, and then there are employees. We have to have all three to make the world move, right? We can't just have a bunch of leaders, too many cooks in the kitchen. You ever heard that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't think just because you're not happy at your current job that you're an entrepreneur. Like, really think before you dive into it, because there's a lot more to it than it's like an iceberg.
And some people are really amazing solopreneurs versus employees.
Yeah.
I am a terrible employee.
What? Your employers had a problem when you pulled out your 74-page how to run Zalata manual, and then they got to Zalata standard time, and they're like, "That's it. I can't fucking do it.
Exactly.
I can't do it."
Well, it's a lot of standard time, and I have a lot of opinions.
No.
Right. I have a lot of opinions. And I don't know if you've seen any other episodes from us, but that's how Alicia and I met. We met in a business mastermind that I got kicked out of for having too many opinions.
So even in the world of entrepreneurship, I like too much.
Too much.
It's so funny.
Because there are problems that I'm willing to fix and some people are unwilling to fix because they're okay with status quo as is.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's the truth.
But I do make a really good solopreneur.
Mm-hmm.
In my times of managing companies, right? Like I had my own business and then I went out to be a solopreneur. Then I built a business again. And I think it's important to highlight that journey of an entrepreneur, right? We're not always ones crushing it with the team. Mm-hmm. We have to have a variety of different skills, right? Like, okay, I was running a company and then I became a solopreneur. But then because I understood what a CEO like Alicia may need, mm-hmm. from a CEO perspective, it made me a better solopreneur.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't think everyone is meant to run a team. I know some solopreneurs who are incredible, mm-hmm. but the moment they start growing their team, no bueno.
Yeah, nobody wants to work for them.
Nobody wants to work for them, and they have a really challenging time with SOPs. They don't want to be bothered. They just want to crank away
at what they're
doing the work, but they want to have some free time.
Yeah.
So I think you hit on such an important point right now. It's like entrepreneurship is so glorified, but maybe you're a great solopreneur.
Mm-hmm. And they're all of those roles are fulfilling for different people. So if you're the type of person that wants to, crush it for 10 hours a day, 8 hours a day, and on the weekends you want to go out and hang out with your friends and your family, and you don't want to have to look at your cell phone, and you don't want anyone's issues coming up and bothering you, that's an employee, and that's amazing. You have a little bit more control of your time, because the second that you step over into entrepreneurship or solopreneurship, you will work 24/7. There is no difference between Saturday and Monday. It's just another day. The only difference to me is that I have employees that I'll be talking to Monday through Thursday, because we do 4 days a week, 10 hours a day. So I know those days I'm going to have less time for myself to get the work done. But otherwise, I mean, I'm working 24/7. That's what you're signing up for, is that if it's needed, you will do it. And if you're not willing to do that, then don't pick up the ball.
I agree with you. And what I also see in entrepreneurship is that sometimes people are rushed to scale. People are rushed to get big fast, especially first-time entrepreneurs. I was one of those people, not realizing all of the facets of what it takes to scale and crush. So are you constantly with your companies in growth mode, or do you go through periods where we're growing and where we're maintaining? How do you manage scale? Because you've scaled. This system has scaled.
A little bit of scaling.
A little bit of scaling.
That is a crazy question, because there is, or at least the cycle that I saw, is that if you don't scale quickly enough, you'll get mown over. And then once you've scaled quickly, you have a beast to feed. So it's a catch-22, and trying to find that happy little balance, I don't think there is one. So I think you have to very much understand the industry that you're getting into, what your competitors are doing, how can you get big enough so that you're not going to be trampled over, but then how can you stay an appropriate size that you can manage, and how can you bring in people quickly enough to fill those roles? Because to me, what it's like is you try as hard as you can to grow as fast as you can, and then you switch your perspective to, how can I fill? And now I need to fill holes where employees and standards and procedures, and then because there's another growth bubble coming. So I always knew, okay, there's another bubble coming, and it always, right before that bubble pops, and you get into that next level, it's so excruciatingly painful because everything is a mess. It's like employees feel like they're being overworked, they're being stretched, your standards and procedures aren't quite where they should be because everything is changing. And so, but knowing that, okay, this bubble is going to pop, the tension is going to release, the new people will come in, we'll update our procedures after that. There's steps to make it smooth, but you just have to be okay with that expansion and the pain that happens with it.
I find that most entrepreneurs are not ready for that. They don't know what it means to scale and what it actually takes. And then I know that I've keeled over in growth once before.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm talking like, I can't do this anymore. I think I took on way too much, way too soon. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs who've run into the same issues. So how do you manage your mental health as you are scaling?
Yeah, I've got a question for you. Did you take on too much or did it just feel like that? Looking back where you're like, I had it. I just didn't know I had it in me.
Looking back, I had it.
Yes. I think that's the key to it. It's just remembering that you're never given something that you can't handle. You've got it. Now find it within yourself to make it happen. I didn't say it was going to be beautiful. I didn't say it was going to be pain-free. How do you think women feel when they birth children? They can't do it. I'm going to die. And then somehow most of them live and have beautiful children.
I can't wait to have that opportunity again.
To have children?
To
no
children for me yet. I can't wait to have that opportunity again where I'm like, I can't do it. This is too much. Because now I'm like, oh, my head's in the game now. Because to me, like I used to run marathons and all that stuff after I was competing in fitness. That wasn't enough, torture in my body. I was like, oh, I'm going to do long distance running now. And there's always that like 22 mile, right? Like where you're legs are cramping and you think like your feet are going to fall off. You already lost all your toes and you're like, I got another couple miles in me. And then there's this amazing hit of
it's like a runner's high. Isn't that what that's
runner's high and hit of hormones that hits you and you're like, I got this. But you got to make it through mile 21, 22 in order to got this.
Yeah.
So
what do you think that is? Do you think it's where your conscious dies? It like basically goes comatose and then your unconscious kicks in and is like, I know what to do.
I think that's where your ego dies.
Your ego.
I think that's where that part of your ego, that part of that identity that held you here and got you here, that's when it gets to break off. And then another level, another layer of your true authentic self emerges and gets to breathe again. And I have that perspective now because I was successful in my first company, but then also coach so many companies from interior design to tech companies. The company advisors became a unicorn, so it's really exciting. And then all these different other companies, and I realized, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's a rhyme and a reason to this thing. You know me, I love to analyze and connect the dots. And I was like, oh, this wasn't a me problem. This is just how business works, the ups and downs and the mess and the messiness. And you just get to enjoy the ride. And at the end of the day, it becomes a game. After a couple companies, it becomes a game.
Yeah, and if you can put that in your head for the first company, you'll be much smoother with it. Because I know my first company and even my second, everything was such a big deal to me. It's just like, it has to be right, black and white. There's only one way right, right? Whatever the right way I thought it was. But now I realize, just chill. It's going to work out. Like that, just chill, it's going to work out does not mean, oh, don't try your best and do excellent work. That just means all the extra bullshit and stress that you spin yourself up with, just let it go. Because it's worthless in the end. What's going to happen is going to happen. And if you put the work in, then you need to have the faith that it's going to turn out good.
That's when you talk about all the time and you're like, I came in today and I did my best.
Yeah.
And this is what my best looked like today.
Yeah. I like that. If you can truly say that. Because I've heard that before. People are like, well, I did my best. And I'm like, no, you didn't. Because I know your best. And I'll flat out tell you, I've seen your best. That wasn't your best.
How do you tell people the uncomfortable truth, especially employees?
Usually in an uncomfortable way.
So many people don't have these uncomfortable conversations with their employees and they're just keeping people in the wrong seats for a really long time, both resentful at each other.
Yeah, it's shocking to me. That doesn't really happen with us. So Charles and I, we're high performers and we are going to move very quickly. And if you're a high performer and if you have radical responsibility built into yourself as a core value, you're going to do really well with us. Otherwise, you're going to fail real quickly.
So is it hire slow, fire fast?
Oh my gosh, yes. Hire slow, fire fast. And, sometimes even the hiring slow, you can't really tell until people get in there because everybody says what you want to hear. But within the first week, this person can keep up. This person enjoys the way that we operate, or they don't. And that's okay. There's no hard feelings. It's just like dating. Just turn them out. Bye. Next.
I used to be such a babysitter when it came to hiring. I was the worst because I don't think I really took the time to understand what kind of skills I needed to hire to take me to the next level. I don't even know what I was hiring, but I was hiring people I thought could do the job. And then a part of me really wanted to help them grow. It made me an amazing coach. It made me a terrible person, like a terrible boss from a growth perspective, because I would hire and I'd be like, I can teach them. I'm capable of helping them out. And
that's like a superwoman issue.
Everyone. And then I'm like, I have to grow the company and then I have to teach you how to do your basic job. And then I feel like through the day, at the end of the day, all of this stuff would pile up. And I'm like, why do I feel this way?
Why do I feel like I'm not getting anywhere?
Because I'm not.
Yeah. Figure out who you need to hire and then hire someone who's done it before.
Tell me more about that.
That's what we found. It's just like the cultivation of others is not your responsibility. Giving them the space to grow, sure. Helping them, cheerlead them, watching them do those things, sure, I'm totally about that. But you telling me that you have a growth mindset, and then me having to yank you to where you say you want to be, no. So when we hire, we look for exactly what we need and have you done it before. And if you've done it before and you've done it well and you can prove that, then that's perfect. And if you come in and you take that role and you excel at it, and we love when people excel because we love to promote from within. We love to keep people for a long time. That's our goal. Then great, move into the next role that fits you. We'll always create a path for your growth in our company, but we're not going to push you there. And if you're more comfortable just staying in the role that you came in, then great, sit there and do it well. But if you do want to move forward, then start moving forward. Start taking responsibilities of that other role. And then we'll see that you're doing it and you're successful at it, and we'll backfill you. And so we'll fill that person that you're in your current role and move you on up.
Yeah,
don't drag people because they say they want to grow. Like, I learned that lesson.
It's not your job as a CEO of your company to drag people up a hill.
No.
Especially while you're paying them.
Right.
And, on a broader perspective of that, it's not your responsibility to drag people up in life either.
No, it doesn't work. They're resentful. Even if they tell you, I think one of the biggest things I learned is that everybody says they want to grow. But what growth is to one person may be very different to another. And the speed at which you grow is also very different. So hearing somebody say that and then just immediately assuming that you guys mean the same thing, that's the mixture for a huge blow up. So when people say they want to grow, great, let them give you examples. Because if they can actually give you real examples, then you can take those data points and see, oh, they grow similarly to the way we do, or they don't.
Data. I love what you just said about big words. Because in NLP, there are certain words that mean big emotional charges to us, like growth, sex, power, peace, right? To one person, growth can mean, okay, I'm having a lovely time learning from you guys. And to other person, growth means I'm going to roll up my sleeves and keep on digging, honey, because this is how it goes, right?
Yeah.
And to one person, sex may mean, oh my God, this is the greatest pleasure. And to another person, it may mean a traumatic experience that they had when they were, whenever. So we have to be really careful about these overarching words like growth and scale, right? Because they mean different things to
different people.
Yeah. So how do you set company goals for growth? I know we're getting like really into technical side of entrepreneurship, but I believe it's really important for us to talk about this because, when you have grown an 8-figure company and you run multiple different companies, that's the kind of female entrepreneurship and leadership skills we need. And I respect you so much because you managed to do it in a very feminine and light way, at least with what we do. And I've observed you also on work calls because we've been around each other. So I'm curious, how do you set goals? And then we can run on the whole, female energy and entrepreneurship too, if you'd like.
I love it. Okay. Thank you for the sweet words. Very kind. I appreciate that. I think that the way that Charles and I chose to set goals, we were very literal about it. So it's funny because we would set these goals, quarter goals, 6-month goals, annual goals, 5-year goals, etc. It's funny to see when you look back that they weren't made quite like you thought they would be made, or they might have been crushed and you're like, wow, I way underestimated what we could do. For me, the goal was always, yes, those goals are there. And then my goal was to win everything. So I had like a realistic goal, but then my everyday goal was to crush everything I touched. So that was just the way that I played it. And what that did, for instance, with our construction company, that gave us 4,000% growth in 5 years. That's because every single time I went on a sales call, I wanted to win that with that client, whatever it took. What did I need to do to make them feel comfortable? I'm not unrealistic in the fact that I knew I was going to lose some of them. But I think just setting reasonable goals that you think you can attain, and then using that unattainable passion that entrepreneurs possess, use that every day, so that you just work to your level of excellence that you can every single day, and then look back and see, hey, did I hit my goals? You'll be surprised. You probably crushed them.
And that's how you increase your capacity to do more. The type of entrepreneur I am now and the type of entrepreneur I was 10 years ago is not the same type of entrepreneur. Is because with doing more every day, with setting bigger goals and hitting them, your capacity expands to hit those goals, and you learn a lot more. So I can take on more than an average entrepreneur who's just starting out their journey. And I think we get a lot of our information now from Instagram on entrepreneurship specifically, or TikTok. And it's like, well, this CEO runs 9 businesses and this is why you should have 17 streams of income. And I'm like, we all started with one.
Yeah.
We all started with one business, one stream of income that we started crushing. And then we started adding more to the portfolio, which likely helped the portfolio. Our businesses are likely not disconnected from one another. There's something that connects them, which typically is our strength.
Yeah.
And so many entrepreneurs spend so much time honing in on their weaknesses. Or like, if I just made this thing better, then everything would jive.
And I'm just like, can you just tell me what my weaknesses are? Great. Can I hire someone? Like, please let me hire someone. And the funny thing about that is when you hire someone who fills a weakness for you, you have, well, at least in my case, I have so much admiration for them. And working with them is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun for me because I look at them and I'm just in awe at what they can do. And then they feel so appreciated because I'm not constantly, at their heels, like, I could do this better. I could do this better. I could do this better. You should be doing it this way or that way. Or no, I'm trusting them. I'm saying, I hired you because you were amazing at this. And now I want to see you shine. And it's amazing how that makes people feel.
Outsource your weaknesses so you can capitalize on your strengths.
Yes.
So you can capitalize on your strength, gain more skill set in your strengths.
Yes.
Hire more people to help you so you can be at your highest with that skill set. I spend, again, so much time on elevating my weaknesses. And I'm like, no, when I start capitalizing on my strength, that's when things really started to move.
Oh, for sure. I think that's the only time they really move. When you're focusing on your weaknesses, that's like a hobby. If you want to improve some weakness you have, do that on your playtime because that's not for business. That's not how you make money. You can't make money that way because if it's your weakness, why would anybody want to buy it from you?
I think a lot of women live with that perfect person in their brain who knows how to do everything. So maybe it's a women's problem or a female entrepreneur type issue that I observe a lot because I've coached a lot of female entrepreneurs, and it hasn't been such a prominent thing for men that I've worked with.
Oh, men are great outsourcers. Are you
right?
kidding me?
I just had did you see my thinking?
You're processing. Whoa.
My thinking brain just went,
babe, can I get a beer? Babe, do you know where the remote is? I don't know where my clean underwear is. I'm like, the same place it's been for years. Like, do you need me to help you find? They are born outsourcers. Mom! I mean, come on. So that comes naturally to men.
And women go, I'll just do it myself.
I'll do it myself. It'll be better if I do it myself. I'll get it done quicker than having to explain it to you. Yeah.
But if you have to explain it every single time, it ain't going to be quicker.
If you have to explain it every single time, you don't have the right person in the role.
We didn't do your SOPs. You don't have the right person in the role.
True.
Agreed.
Yeah.
You can start to try to outsource in your own home.
I think that's the perfect place to start.
Yep.
That's what I did. It's like, okay, that's an easier role to fill, right? Because it doesn't, just folding laundry or, putting away groceries, grocery shopping, laundry, That's an easier role to fill than trying to find a great accountant or someone to run your accounting department or advertising, et cetera. Those are a lot more impactful positions monetarily. So you don't want to make those mistakes there, but you can start practicing your growth and ability to find the right people, plug them in, give them the things they need to be successful.
And so many entrepreneurs are like, oh, I don't really have the resources to delegate and I don't know how to delegate. And I'm like, well, delegate like you're learning the skill of delegation. Learn to delegate one task, like email. That's going to cost you $7 a day if you hire a VA in the Philippines, for example. If your company is relying on a lot of outsource help that can be performed by somebody who isn't next to you in the office.
Yeah.
So because we have a lot of VAs, content managers, social media management, video editing, I run a creative business, so makes sense to me, but we have to learn the skill of delegation on little tasks. I love that you said, like, start in your home. I'm like, start on your email box, start on the simplest things that are going to give you the skill.
Yeah. So that you know what to do. I think before I delegate something, probably the process that I use is I organize it first. So I want it to be organized. I want it to be the most efficient way to get something done. Literally the same system that I use to manage our companies, Monday.com, I use it for our home too. So every single product that I have in our house that we use is on a list and you take stock of it. And there's a minimum requirement. There's, you go through, you take stock. If it's under the minimum, you order to bump it up back to the minimum. So my house runs completely smoothly because I practiced there. I was like, okay, how can I make sure that this is easy for me? How can I make sure that it's efficient and I don't run out of things? So I created my own system and then I implemented a person into it once I had worked the kinks out on myself.
So what's one of your in-home systems we can practice on?
I mean, I think inventory is a huge one. And I think that it's one that people don't think of. They just go to the store and they just spend, right?
Right.
Oh, we need this, we need that, we need, and then if you have kids with you too, they're throwing shit in the cart, you're throwing shit in the cart, you just want to get out of the grocery store, or, you do it on Amazon. Some is Amazon, some is Whole Foods, some is Target. And it's a real clusterfuck and you don't realize how much time it takes for you to just keep your house running. So the place that I would start is taking an inventory stock. Hey, here's the items that we need to live, right? We need toilet paper, we need milk, we need whatever the things are, your type of shampoo, your son's type of body wash, put them all in the list and then put the min-max requirements, right? So I want to have, for me, I don't like to run out of things. So I have back stock. It's like there should always be 2 unopened of this thing. And so when somebody goes to refill our body wash, well, now there's only 1 unopened, then we mark that when we do our stock day and just order. Nobody has to ask me about it. It's already there. So systemizing your home to give you back your time.
And to give you the skill to do that when you are managing a project.
Because it's the same. You just apply the same thought process.
I love this. This is a really helpful chat.
Well, there you go.
Right? I'm like 10 years ago, I wish I knew this, right? Because I was very young when I first started delegating, and I was delegating to people older than me, and I mistakenly thought that they knew better, or
that is the worst assumption.
That because they're older,
they know.
And that wasn't the truth. And I felt like I was so young and so like, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed or whatever, that I was like, oh, they're older, they will know what I need. And that was not true at all.
No.
So I needed to learn those skills of delegation, and it's a really good place to start in your home. I think it's an amazing place to learn, especially if you're young. And I know a lot of our listeners are younger and are starting these companies, right? Like they're maybe starting a t-shirt company, which I feel like that's everyone's first business, right? Like t-shirt company. Yeah, for sure. T-shirt company, or maybe resale of clothes, or maybe candles, or any company that is going to run based on inventory. I don't care if you're 15 years old listening right now, then take note of what's just said, because that's exactly the same skill set that builds 8-figure portfolios.
Exactly. So for instance, my recommendation to anyone starting out, whether you want to be an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, or you want to be an employee, this works for everyone. Sign up for Monday.com or any other platform that's similar and start systematizing your house. I do my closet this way too. So everything that I buy and keep is logged into my closet. If I ever am shopping and I want to buy something, I literally can search by brand name. Okay, this is my size. This is what I have. I never buy duplicates, or I don't have to ever wonder, did I get the right size? I know what size I am because I can search my closet online, and it's all categorized and organized. And I know what items are there right now, what items are at the dry cleaners by a push of a button. So if I want to wear something or I want to ask someone to pack my clothes for an upcoming trip and I'm not home, I know what's there. And I know what's with me. I know what's over there. I have a very quick and efficient way to see what's going on everywhere in my businesses and my home.
So I have to tell you the truth.
It's crazy.
Can I tell you the truth?
Of course.
Until I met you and until I saw how you run your life, it took me 6 months of watching Alicia in a sense of like, prove it that it's easier to run it this way. Right? Prove it that it's easier to run it that way. Because I looked at that and I was like, this is cumbersome as hell. And I'm never going to take my time to do this. Like, this is crazy, crazy town. Right? And now I've done 3 full recording days, 4 photo shoots, 5 photo shoots since the beginning of the year. And I'm like, yeah, the closet inventory would come in really handy right now. But I remember looking at that board that you sent me and I was like, this is crazy pants.
Yeah, you can search it by brand, by color, by type of clothes, shorts, spaghetti straps, dresses, A-line, however you want to keyword search that bitch. You've got it.
But it also could be the same for like your social media calendar.
Of course.
Right? If you have your messaging, you have your talking points. Alicia's talking point is how to efficiently run your company, how to efficiently run your business. And then within those topics, you can have like 30 different things that you could possibly talk about.
Of course.
So
this also works for management of staff or management of yourself. So for instance, the items that we have to do to keep our house running, water the vegetable garden. That one's watered every day. Water the flowers. Those are watered once a week. And these are not on sprinkler. These are by hand for its personal reasons. But obviously we have people that come and clean. But before that, you want to get your cleaning days done. There's certain days that you go food shopping. There's all these tasks that have to be done in your house. The last time I read an article on it, said women do about 4 hours of unpaid work per day in their household. And they don't even think about it. Laundry, dishes, dusting, all of these things add up. But if you'll put them on a board and there's a day that they're assigned to and those just auto-populate, you know what your tasks are for today, you know how much time they're going to take because your time's already estimated in there, then you know exactly what you need to outsource. And I could tell you from my task list, okay, I've got 34 hours of housework a week. That means I can hire a full-time person for this.
Correct.
Whereas if you don't ever track these things, you don't organize them, you don't think about them, you're just like, I just need help. You don't know what kind of help you need. But I very quickly know. And it happens with my employees too, because I'll hire them at, about 30 hours worth of work a week. And of course it's going to continue because we're growing. Then once they start to get closer to 40, then I'm looking for another person to bring in to take off some of their load because I know we're not going to slow down. So I'm managing by watching their time and I see, okay, they hit 40 hours. They hit 45 hours. Wow, the last 3 weeks, they've been working 50 hours a week. Time to get that new person in quick. And then I take their extra hours and that's what the new person is given. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. And that's a really great way to keep your staff motivated, keep your employees motivated, because there are people who love doing the same thing over and over and over again. But most people like to add a variety. And also most people really like to get some help.
Yeah. Well, and it's not even that they need help. The roles grow, right? One person can't do all of it. And so if you're going to be on this crazy growth path, you have to understand that you hired somebody and they only have so many hours a week. So a lot of times what will happen, for instance, with our EAs is that their list is constantly growing. They'll never be done. That's how the world works, right? So we have to prioritize. I know that they work 10-hour days. So every morning they put time estimates on their tasks that are in their Monday board. And I look through it and then I take off any tasks over 10 hours that are not a priority for them so that they don't have to guess, what do I want done today? It takes me 2 minutes and then they have a peaceful day because they know I can get this done and I accomplished it and I'm slaying it. They don't have to, I didn't get these things done and I didn't know what she wanted and I got some of them, but not all of them. And it's just organized and peaceful versus looking at all these tasks and not knowing what to do with them.
Everybody take note. If you need a great operations manager, this is how you hire one.
Or this is the system that you
create and implement
for them so that they can do it well for you.
Tell me more about that. I feel like this is an Alicia interrogation about scaling today.
give me this info.
I'm fascinated. I'm like, please keep talking.
Girl, I had so much fun with Monday.com just because you can build everything out to fit you specifically. My dad is a programmer. And so I think there's like a little bit of that in me. I enjoy organizing and creating these procedures that work for people because what I see is peace on their side. I've had jobs where they just like dumped work on my desk. They didn't know if that was 15 hours worth of work or 5 hours worth of work. And so how could they manage how I felt each night when I went home if I felt like I failed at my job or if I succeeded at my job? My goal is for all my staff members to feel like they won each day. I crushed it. Yeah, you've got work that has to be done tomorrow. Of course, that's why you have a job. But I crushed today. And so that's what I use Monday for. Everything is there. Also, what doing that and organizing your items out into a computer does, it frees up your space. This is the most valuable thing I have, my brain. Why would I clutter it with stupid shit like that a computer can remember for me? So anything that I can take out of my brain and give to a computer, that's my ultimate goal so that my brain can be free and peaceful.
I think this is my ultimate hack for mental health as an entrepreneur is keep dumping things out of your head on a piece of paper and then systemizing it. Yes. Dump it out of your brain, systemize it. Dump
it out of your brain to a computer, not a piece of paper that you will lose and spill coffee on.
Oh, everything needs to be documented. I have, broken up with pen and paper 10 years ago and I was like, everything needs to be digital.
In our interviews, when we ask people how they keep, everybody loves to-do lists in our interviews. Everybody loves them. And then we ask how they keep their to-do list. And if they tell me they use a pen and paper, I don't hire them. I'm like, that's the most inefficient thing I've ever heard. We're in the 21st century. You have an iPhone. It's a computer in your hand. And you haven't figured out an efficient way to manage your to-do list.
I do iPhone notes.
Oh, that work. I don't care how you're doing it, but if you're not doing it using technology, then we're not going to work together.
I've tried all sorts of different things, and this is just a trial and error of entrepreneurship, right? Like Alicia loves Monday.com. I am a big believer in Trello. Trello is how my brain works. My brain works differently as a creative, and it works on boards. Like I really like to pin stuff. Mm-hmm. And I just took the way that I was already naturally doing things.
Yeah, and found an efficient way to use a computer for it.
Exactly. And now that my company is smaller, I have a couple, people that I outsource things to, but that gets managed on notes. Like I don't feel the need for project management software now, even though Alicia's probably going to argue with me after this.
No, I think Apple has done. I'm not knocking any other phones, but I think Apple,
I've never used any other phone. I had an Android for exactly 2 days, and I was like, "I'll take this thing back."
That happened to me too.
I was like, "I don't understand."
Yeah, nah. But I think shared notes are great. They're phenomenal, and they keep making them better. They have the little circles where you can check mark it once it's done. You can see who edited the note, who said this or that. I think that the reason that I require that you're using technology is because that means that you're able to grow. That means that you're constantly looking for the best. You're a trendsetter. How can I implement? How can I save time? How can I do better? Whereas pen and paper to me is so old school. I think if you're journaling, by all means, use pen and paper. But if this is going to be a collaborative task in any way, shape, or form, it's a disservice to you and anyone else that has to work with you that you have notes somewhere. No one cares about your folder that you left at home by accident, and we're trying to get a project that's due now, and now you have to drive home to get your folder. I'm like, dear God, what world do we live in? Please just use a computer.
I agree. Shared notes are fire. I love shared notes.
I love it too because there's no obligation to it. I can work on it at 1 o'clock in the morning. I can work on it at 5 o'clock in the morning. And when you get to your note, you'll see it.
Love shared notes.
Mm-hmm. They work really, really well. I just went on a rampage about Monday.
This is not sponsored by Monday.com.
This is not sponsored by Monday.com. Yet.
But I will be cutting out a chunk of this episode and sending it straight to their PR team.
This is how we run,
you bet.
$1 million companies. Monday.com. Right.
So there's a bunch of other ones. Let's not discriminate against other ones. Trello, I like.
Yes.
Monday.com, but that's a recent one. What did you use before Monday?
Monday.com isn't recent. They've been around for, I think we've been using them 5 or 6 years, Crystal. Yeah.
I think there's also Honeybook.
I don't know about that one.
A lot of creatives use Honeybook. Mm-hmm. It's the same, like sending out invoices and stuff like that, but a bunch of different ones. So what I'm trying to say with that is what is your natural way to work? Find a project management software that mimics the natural way that your brain thinks. Oh, Asana was a really big one. We used Asana for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Asana. I have a little bit of a, from Asana, but
a little bit of anxiety.
Yeah,
I'm watching you.
I think it's just like for managing a couple of different projects on there, and it's good in theory with bullet points, but then when it came to creative things, it really wasn't that great. So Trello is my fave.
Yeah, I do think that there's a difference between being creative. A lot of times projects to me, they're creative before they're actual projects. So you have to have that space and freedom to flow. And that's what I think you do on Trello. You pin stuff. You look at it this way, you look at it that way, you move it around. That's a lot more flexible. I would use Monday.com for systems that you already know need to be in place. Like this is repetitive. So for instance, all the tasks for keeping my house running every month, those just duplicate, auto duplicate. Nobody has to, every month you get a new board. I don't have to do shit. The only thing that I have to do is if a new task pops up, right? Like, oh, I now want to do every November, I want to buy this kind of creamer because I love it and guests like it when they come over. And so that will be a new task that's added. And then every November it pops up automatically, right?
That's some serious queendom right there.
You know, I like my fucking creamers.
I like my creamer.
Fancy coffee, man. I literally, I told Crystal on this trip, she brought my special coffee from home here with my coffee grinder, and then the coffee grinder didn't work. And I was like, Crystal, the only reason I get up in the morning is for coffee. I was so sad. She found me new coffee, but I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to die without it. You know, really, but kind of.
The drama.
I know.
The drama.
Grinder.
The grinder's broken. The creamer is wrong. God help me.
Please. God help everyone else. I'll find it. Like, just how long is it going to take?
God help everyone else. I'm a pour over gooseneck type of gal where you just take a really long time to make that cup of coffee.
That shit's good.
It's
Pour over?
really good. My fave.
Yeah.
I stopped drinking coffee every morning because it was really impacting my energy levels. I was noticing that I was going up in the morning with coffee and going down at night with a glass of wine or a drink. And it was
down with wine.
Because it's a come down, right? Like it's a come up with coffee and a come down with wine. I mean, oh, no?
I'm sorry.
What is it? What's happening right now?
Our producers are over here cracking up.
Why is everybody laughing?
It's just not English as a first language. That's all.
What is the problem? I don't drink coffee no more.
That's good.
I was acting like cracked out bitch by the end of the day, so I needed wine. This is just a nice way of saying it.
To come down. That's all. Add some wine in with that, but sure.
I still don't get the joke.
I'm sorry.
I'm a good girl now. I don't drink coffee, so therefore you need to respect me because it took like 90 days to like be a normal person. Actually,
really
serious amount of self-respect over here for my commitment to not drinking coffee every day because I drank it for.
Did you drink a lot?
11 years. Yes. I mean, I was a fitness competitor. Like you chow down the pre-workout, the post-workout, the coffee, the espresso, the whatever else had coffee in it. You know, like it was just like anything
to not eat.
Exactly. So. You know, my relationship with coffee has improved, but I hadn't been weaned off of it for quite a long period of time. So I took a 90-day solid break where I didn't have any coffee at all. And the shakes were real.
Really?
Like day 45, I was like, oh my God, I'm seriously detoxing from coffee. It was really, really crazy. But I highly recommend that break. I now put it back into my repertoire every couple of days. And now it became more of a ritual of like, hey, I'm going to write and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a creative project because let's face it, like nobody's ever crushed on a creative project without a cup of coffee.
Or a cup of tea, something warm. I don't know what it is with me. It's just having it in my hands.
Like crushing with chamomile tea just feels weird to me.
I'm more like a pomegranate white tea.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Chai tea with
chai tea.
A little few drops of my creamer. Just so picky. Yes.
She knows what she likes.
And my house is always stocked with it.
I respect that.
Because of Monday.com. Thank you. I think this is the end, man. I mean, how much more can we talk about Monday?
Until it's Tuesday.
Until it's Tuesday. It is funny. Sometimes we have texts between my staff about Monday and they're not sure if it's monday.com because the person didn't write .com or we're talking about actual Monday. And I'm like, who picked that name? It's kind of odd, right?
It is kind of odd. Yeah. I'll email their PR team about their branding as well. So
I'd be like, I know y'all just went public, so you're not hurting, but we think.
we think you need my advice. That's some stuff I would do.
I've been using your shit before you were public.
So personally, I believe. All right. Well, thank you so much for everyone who listened to the episode. Yeah. We would love to hear your thoughts and prayers in comments.
Yeah. Go down with some wine. Try that one out and let me know how it works.